What is up, guys? I know if I asked you lot what ELO you actually are, 90% would probably say Challenger, but I thought today we could actually talk about some champions that are just better at lower ranks, so will climb faster from like silver to gold than plat to diamond, for example. Before we start, this is a video with Pro Guide, so thank you to them for editing this together for me. A link to the site is down below where you can catch some guides and their genius feature. Honestly, I could probably do one of these every few patches if you want to see it, but that is up to you guys. So like this if you want to see it more often, tell me in the comments, but dislike it if you don't. Let's just start this whole thing with the king of low elo, Amumu. By the way, just low elo to me at least means bronze, silver, and gold. It's not a bad thing, it's just a way of grouping those ranks together. So there's a few reasons to start with. Amumu is not the best early. He can gank actually with his Q, but in general, the clear speed is not the best and he can be invaded. Now at lower ranks, we don't really have to worry about that as much. You're less likely to get punished, or at least like you're not in a way that is going to completely screw you for the rest of the game. I think farming to 6 is less risky in general anyway. Like higher ranks, the other jungler is going to pressure a lot more. Here they probably won't as much, plus there's less chance of a counter gank, which makes diving in a lot less risky. One of the best things is Amumu is so simple. You have one skill shot, you have two forms of crowd control, one that is massive as well, which you know obviously bigger is always better, right? Two persistent damage sources plus tanky, hard to kill. In reality, like the perfect champion for climbing with. Being simple is something a lot of people don't actually often like, I guess, but you can still do a lot with him. The good thing is that it's not hard to have that impact. Like with an Azir, for example, right? There are so many things that could go wrong, but with Amumu, it's pretty hard to mess that up, which is more reliable, and more reliable means a more consistent impact and climb. In my opinion, honestly, in bronze and silver, you might even actually want to ban this guy. I know it sounds like super strange, but I feel like he's always a really good pick and just very hard to play against as well. Malzahar is another one who has consistently done well at lower ranks recently after his rework, and I know right now he's very strong even at higher ranks, but the champion concept and kit is super good for low elo, which like even after the nerfs will keep him relevant. Your ultimate is a point and click crowd control that people do not play around properly and has a major impact. In lane, you literally just lock them down as a gank comes in. In team fights, someone jumps in, you ult, you blow them up, and you practically already won. I don't think there are many other spells that are such high impact and so easy to use. Because it's so easy though, it lets you focus on the other things like where to stand, who to focus, who to ultimate. It is also just partly your build. You're tanky with a lot of damage, which is perfect. You're hard to deal with. If they focus you, then it takes a while. They might not even be able to kill you, honestly, but if they don't, then you're going to focus them. Your lane phase is very easy to win. You just push and you farm. It basically stops like any kind of aggression. It's very hard to lose your lane because they're going to focus on the minions and not on you. Part of it is also your passive. It's like a get out of jail free card, I guess. I don't know if you have that expression actually outside of the UK, but it's basically like out of position, right? It doesn't really matter. If they focus you, you have that safety net to start with. Ideally, how you beat that is you proc it before the fight, but to be honest, at lower ranks, you're not going to have to worry about that. That is unlikely to happen and it's just so strong. So let's get into these slightly less obvious ones with Sona to start with, and I think it's kind of funny really. I get the most like rage questions where it's kind of like a question but actually just a rant. Like, how do you deal with Sona because she's the most irritating champion in the game? Normally actually with a few more curse words, to be honest. This is the good thing, right? She's hard to play against, good damage and a good heal as well, which makes fighting her really awkward. In reality, you need to just go all in. You need to go balls deep and kill her. I'm sure actually a few of you would like to be balls deep, but that's probably another story. If you fight her properly, she's low health, she's easy to kill, but if you sit back, then you let her do what she wants. The problem at lower ranks, I think, is people might not really know that. Like, they aren't coordinated enough to use it anyway, and they're too passive, so they end up doing nothing. That is kind of like where Sona shines, really. I guess against worse players, her weaknesses are smaller, and she's just much better in general. And part of that is because she's so easy to play. Like, you Q'd for damage, you W'd to heal, which you don't even have to target. The only slightly hard thing is aiming your ultimate correctly. As far as supports go, she can have a really high impact, bully your opponents, and heal her AD, both of which are going to help a bad AD carry through the lane phase, and then you have that ultimate to catch or set up kills. Normally, I don't think defensive supports are the way to go in solo queue. You need to carry, you need to be the one making plays, but Sona is one where you can do both, and that is what makes her so good. Next up is Misfortune, probably the best AD carry for lower ranks right now, except maybe Ashe, but I mean, she's like beyond busted right now, so it doesn't really count. When you first look at her, you probably think like no mobility, so that just means she's going to be bad. It is kind of like that, but it's a two-sided coin, right? So yes, you can't move around and escape as easily, but someone actually has to target you and punish that lack of mobility, which isn't going to be as likely at lower ranks. To be honest, this is with the Korean build, so the Ghostblade, Black Cleaver, and Dustblade combo. The three together make this just a whole ton better. Basically, it turns you from a traditional AD carry to an AD caster, almost actually like an AD mage, really, I guess. The hard part of being an AD is auto-attacking. I know it sounds really weird, but attack moving, positioning, attacking constantly, that is actually kind of hard to do. Misfortune Fortune doesn't even need to do that. She literally just uses her abilities, aims her ultimate, and crushes a team fight. Sometimes without even having to auto attack, or at least if she does, it's kind of a cleanup, which is easy. Your ult is honestly the biggest thing. Like, it can turn around lost games, you can close out winning ones. If the enemy team just takes team fights, which is probably going to, then you have a massive chance to win them. Your lane phase is very strong as well. Your Q is kind of mainly on the enemy to dodge. Like, if they stand to the side and minion waves, then you can't really do very much, but chances are they're not going to do that, and you can bounce it to chunk half of the health bars. This next one is probably one you didn't really expect, I guess, but Sejuani is really solid for climbing ranked. Kind of similar to Amumu, actually, a little bit more complicated though, I think, but you could argue you have a bit more room to outplay and kind of do more with her. So the first thing is you're massively tanky. Like, it's so hard to kill you, and she does a ton of damage. That mix is literally what a low elo mid laner or AD carry has nightmares about. How that's even what I have nightmares about. This is what lets you carry, to be honest. Your team gets the front line they need, you have a good team fight, like you have a good well-rounded comp, I guess, and you can gank, and you are a threat as well. The lockdown with your ultimate can win an entire team fight if you use it properly, but more importantly, it's just a very solid engage. Like, engaging a fight first normally means you're going to come out on top. You get to pick fights when it suits you. You can catch someone, you lock them down for free damage to start with, and yes, like, you have damage, you're hard to kill, and they will help you win a fight, but those things are kind of useless if you don't engage. You also have an AoE slowing damage. It makes like ignoring you a very bad idea in team fights, but focusing you doesn't really do very much either, so you're kind of left with like, well, what do you actually do? I think she's one of the higher impact tanks earlier into the game. Like, you do a lot of damage and ganks your mobile too, but a little tip actually, try to smite Gromp before you gank. It's the same with the Amumu actually, or any tank that has some kind of persistent damage, but having that Gromp buff will make you even harder to deal with. Trust me, it does a lot on a tank like that. You're not going to be the best early into the game, honestly. If someone flashes your ult, you're in trouble, and you can get kited around, but at lower ranks, all three of those problems aren't as bad, or they're not going to be big enough to stop you carrying. Now, Jinx is another one who, for the longest time, I was like, well, low mobility, a bit slow to get going in the game, so probably not going to be the best for low elo. The thing is, actually, there are a lot of good reasons why you'd want to pick her, and why she's probably more reliable and can carry harder than her higher ranks. Again, like, low mobility is only going to be punished if the enemy team act on it, which isn't going to be every game, or not in the best ways anyway. I think we can actually at least survive here. Our passive also means that one kill or assist, and suddenly we are impossible to catch. Anybody can attack, move, or kite with that much move speed. So I said before, like, you know, auto attacking is probably the hard part of being an AD carry, right? But with Jinx, it's really easy. Literally, you right click in rocket form and watch those AoE crits rip through the entire team. It's straightforward, high range, and anybody can do that. Where like a Caitlyn kind of needs to net, she needs to trap and stuff like that, Jinx really doesn't have to do anything else. In my opinion, it lets you focus more on who to hit and where to stand, which is super important. This is very specific for now, like when I'm making this video, which is patch 6.13, but Ghostblade in lane will be a good way to make sure you can do more early and not fall behind. Though this is kind of the other thing actually. Jinx is very risk free. There's no pressure to win lane, to fight, to kill people, or even outplay someone. Like, you can just farm and eventually you'll start to kill people. Having no pressure, I think, actually makes it much easier to play the lane phase and still be effective. Like, that is a really good way to play AD carry when you're not as comfortable on the role. Now, Ahri is a champion I actually haven't mentioned for a long time. She is still really strong though, and much better at lower ranks right now. Honestly, she's kind of the perfect mid laner to main if you want to climb. There are obviously a lot of choices and good picks, okay? There are a lot of good picks you can actually play and climb with, but not as many can do as much as her. I guess she's just so versatile. The first thing is you're super safe, right? You can ult to get you out of any crap situation you accidentally put yourself into and cover up any mistakes. Mistakes are normal. They're going to happen. Like, everybody makes mistakes and you can't avoid that, but it's how you learn. It's how you test your limits, and this way we just don't die for them. Damage wise, she still has a ton of it. Still practically like assassin level of being able to burst someone down from full or 75% health, which can get us a lot of kills. She's a good lane phase, a heal to sustain, wave clear to push, poke, the ultimate to avoid ganks or net as kills, which is really good. Also, she's just very good at roaming though. Like, one of the biggest parts to being a mid laner is that you need to roam, and it's a little bit awkward to learn, I guess, but Ahri makes it easier to start with. You can just ult through wards and still get some kills. One thing I actually really like, why I recommend her so much, is because the more you play her, the harder you are going to carry. I do think apart from the skill shots, she's pretty easy to play, but at the same time, there's a lot you can do extra on top of that basic level that separate Ahri mains from just normal players. So Zara is another one a lot like Sona actually, but this time instead of doing a bit of everything, you're just this kind of damage monster. I think she's honestly too strong right now, like really way too strong, so that obviously helps, but her kit is just great for low elo anyway. Well, like the idea behind it. She's very oppressive. She has little counterplay and just isn't fun to play against. Well, that sucks when you're going against her. That's really nice for us playing her. Making the enemy AD carry tilt is a very big thing, honestly. I know it's weird to say, but playing against Zara does tilt people. They feel useless, they get frustrated and they do dumb things, which normally means you can get some easy kills when they walk way too far forward to try and get some CS. You have a ton of plants everywhere now. Your Q can proc them even when it doesn't hit, which makes her a lot easier to play as well. But yeah, so like the way you actually beat her is to dive onto her and burst her, but there are a few problems with that at lower ranks. The first thing is focusing the support, if not done correctly, will normally mean that AD just free hits you and you die, which obviously is not a good start. Also, diving onto her actually is exactly what she wants. She's going to root you, she'll ult you, and you're probably dead before she is, or at least low enough for her AD to clean up afterwards. Also not very good. The final thing is she can poke a ton and put you low enough not to be able to fight in the first place. Basically, it's going to come down to engaging before she can poke, otherwise you're screwed. That's only the lane phase as well. Building like full AP is like having another mid laner, and that is a massive advantage in team fights. So that wraps up this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you again to Pro Guys for editing this together for me. Let me know if you want to see any more of these in the future, but that's all for this time, so let's go to the robots.